Thank you. So I am going to do the call to order. Today is November 22nd, 2021, meeting of the Seattle Park District Board. It will come to order. It is 5:01. I'm Deborah Juarez, President of the Board. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Gonzalez.
Here.
Herbold. Lewis.
Present.
Morales.
Here.
Mosqueda.
Present.
Peterson.
Present.
Sawant.
Councilmember Sawant let us know she couldn't make it.
Thank you. Strauss.
Present.
President Juarez.
Here.
7 present.
All right, we have a quorum. Let's go forward. I'll move to the approval of the agenda. If there's no objection, the agenda will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the agenda is adopted. I will go to approval of the minutes. The minutes of the October 18th, 2021 Seattle Park District Board meeting have been reviewed. If there is no objection, the minutes will be signed. Hearing no objection, the minutes will be signed. Will the clerk please affix my signature to the legislation on my behalf? I'm going to go to the chair's report now. This is the third Metropolitan Park District Board meeting of the year. The first meeting occurred June 21st, where we considered and voted on Resolution 42 and 43. The first was to delay the next 6-year spending plan by additional year. The latter piece of legislation allowed the Park Oversight Committee to be combined with the Board of Park Commission to streamline the efforts, and that has paid off well. The next meeting occurred Monday, October 18th, where we held a public hearing. Today is the last meeting of the year where we will consider resolutions 44, 45, 46, and 47. We will open with a presentation from our Parks Department, followed by consideration of the following pieces of legislation. And this is just a brief overview before we move into public comment. Resolution 44 establishes the 2022 proposed budget. The public can click on the legislation and refer to Attachment A to review the budget summary, and Attachment B, which provides a detailed spending plan for reference. We also reviewed this when we were meeting on October 18th. Resolution 45 authorizes the levy on regular property taxes by the MPD for 2022 revenue. The 2022 proposal represents an increase of 2.5% over 2021. Resolution 46 fixes the rate of taxes to be levied upon taxable property. So this resolution authorizes the collection of property taxes to meet the revenue requirements of the proposed 2022 budget and sets the tax rate at 0.207 per 1,000 assessed value. The tax rate for 2021 is 0.201. Resolution 47 is merely technical in nature, and it establishes the next regular meeting date for the Metropolitan Park District, which will be in 2022. So at this time, we will move to public comment. We will open the remote public comment period. It remains a strong intent of the Seattle City Council and the Seattle Park District Board to have public comment regularly included on meeting agendas. However, the Seattle Park District Board reserves the right to end or eliminate this public comment period at any point if we deem that the system is being abused or is unsuitable for allowing our meetings to be conducted efficiently and in a manner in which we are able to conduct our necessary business. Our City Clerk Jody will moderate this general public comment period and will continue the instructions. Go ahead, Jody. Madam Clerk, are you there?
Yes, sorry about that. The public comment period for this meeting is up to 20 minutes, and each speaker will be given 2 minutes to speak. I will call on 2 speakers at a time and in the order in which registered on the online sign-up list. If you have not registered to speak but would like to, you can sign up before the end of this public comment period by going to the council's website at seattle.gov/council. The public comment link is also listed on today's agenda. Once a speaker's name is called, staff will unmute the appropriate microphone, and an automatic prompt of "you have been unmuted" will be your cue, the speaker's cue, that it is their turn to speak. You at that time must also touch *6 on your phone to unmute yourself after your name is called. Then please begin speaking by stating your name and the item you're addressing. As a reminder, public comment should relate to any item on today's agenda. Speakers will hear a chime when 10 seconds are left of the allotted time. Once you hear the chime, we ask that you begin to wrap up your public comment. If speakers do not end their public comments at the end of the allotted time provided, the speaker's microphone will be muted to allow us to call on the next speaker. Once you've completed your public comment, we ask that you please disconnect from the line, and if you plan to continue following this meeting, please do so via Seattle channel or the listening options listed on the agenda. President Juarez, there are 4 speakers signed up, only 3 currently present, and we can begin calling on them.
Thank you, Jody. The public comment period is now open, and we will begin with the first 2 speakers on the list. Jody, you want to go ahead and call the people for public comment?
The first 2 speakers are Tim Mutzer and Ann Tyson.
Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear? Yes. My name is Tim Mutzer.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Mr. Mutzer?
If we lost Tim, let's let him back in.
Tim, can you start again?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, let's start again, Tim. You cut out. We'll start the clock again.
Okay. All right. My name is Tim Mutzer.
Uh-oh. Okay, so we got a technical problem. Let's go to the next.
Can you hear me?
No, Tim, we can't. When you start speaking, you cut out, so.
Let's try one more time.
Yes, try one more time.
My name is Tim Mutzer. I'm here at your meeting tonight as a Lake City resident who has raised concerns about funding for aging park facilities, which includes our community center. I want to reinforce the testimony you heard at your October hearing. There has been a steady pattern of decreasing property tax rates for annual park district funding in conjunction with increasing property tax base of the city. I've included a chart documenting this pattern as well as a copy of the most recent projected property tax base increases through 2029 from the budget office as part of my email to you earlier. My calculations are correct. The proposed 20.7 cents assessment rate using the projected $275 billion property tax base in 2022 will result in almost $57 million in revenue. This will exceed revenue needs for 2022 by almost $876,000. This situation raises the question of what property tax base projection was used. If these numbers are correct, a choice needs to be made by either keeping the proposed tax rate at 20.7 or lowering the tax rate to slightly under 20.4 cents. Based on these numbers, I'm recommending that you use the 20.7 cent rate and allocate the projected surplus to pay down part of the $5 million allocation for the Lake City Community Center that was originally shown for the 22 Park District budget. Another suggestion, in keeping with the comments made at the October hearing, is to change the funding pattern going into the next Park District cycle. This could be achieved by stabilizing the tax rate and keeping the current rate at 21.3 cents going into 2022. This action could fund the replacement $5 million allocation for the Lake City Community Center. On another note, why are you scheduling one meeting in 2022 as part of your resolution number 47? I want to thank the Board of Park Commissioners for considering my comments, and hopefully we'll be making changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And we did receive your email and your material, so thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Ann Tyson. She will be followed by Colleen McAleer. Go ahead, Ann.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. My name is Ann Scott Tyson. I am a resident of District 4 and a volunteer Seattle Parks inspector. I'm asking you to fully retain funding for the Northeast 41st Street Community Center. I know the center well. One of my earliest memories is going to preschool at the center, learning my ABCs. As a teen, the center was a hub for sports, dances, and pottery classes. My own 4 children also all took classes at the center. Pre-COVID, both my husband, a disabled veteran, and my elderly father, who I care for, attended many events there. The center and its activities are attended by thousands of people. The 200 attendance number that the council was given in the November 18th budget meeting was just flat wrong. I know because I attend public events there, and I've seen the packed rooms many times pre-COVID. Wrong information may exist because the community was not given the chance to comment on closing the center to the public. Funds are available for the $190,000 to save the Northeast 41st Street Community Center. The Parks and Recreation budget overall is up 24% and contains substantial hikes for many programs that exceeded the increases of previous years. Money is not the problem here. Public community centers are vital for the cohesion of the city and its neighborhoods. The Parks Department's strategic plans have recognized this and called for strengthening the centers, not closing them. This is what the Parks Department's own plan states. Community centers are places where people recreate, celebrate, and meet their neighbors and help make our city a great place to live, work, and raise a family. That's been my experience. Please vote to retain the Northeast 41st Street Center. Thank you very much for your time, and I speak the balance of my time.
Thank you, Ann. Who's next, Jody?
Our next speaker is Colleen McAleer, and she will be followed by David Haynes. Go ahead, Colleen.
Good evening, Chair Juarez and City Council members. Burn the Midnight Oil. I am representing the 4,100 households that are within a walkable mile of Seattle's Community Center at Northeast 41st Street. And I've spoken before. We just asked today that City Council advocate to Seattle Parks and Recreation to structure budgets that retain programming in all of its community centers, not closing them. Are concerned that the Seattle Parks and Rec budget increased by 25%, but offers that it has to close one of its 26 centers to balance its massive budget, which is only 0.0067% of their entire budget. The 94-year-old center has offered classes for that long for isolated seniors, little tots, after-school classes, adjacent elementary school whose students are 45% of color and 30% are low income. It provides open play for kiddos, senior low-impact exercises, and meeting space for organizations called LEAP, which trains and pack a room of everybody to turn off gas and water utility structures for their neighborhood. COVID-trapped kids need a place to participate in programming and stimulating environment, tumbling, music, pre-sports classes. Some schools now have to go remote because children are back in the classroom, but they're not socially adjusted. Programming can help foster cooperation by meeting other kids and adults from different backgrounds through a positive experience of play. And seniors, especially on fixed incomes, benefit as well by stretching their minds and bodies. The Lifelong Art Center, representing over 215,000 residents over 50, love this community center, used it for years as the #1 spot. It's smaller, easy to navigate, and handicap-friendly, and a safe space to meet. The Northeast 45th Street Center serves 15 adjacent neighborhoods, and the Northeast District Council voted heavily to support retaining its program. So we ask that you ask the Seattle Parks and Recreation to continue to keep its programming and balance its budget other means. It keeps with the budget from 2001, it would be the same amount as keeping the budget for this year and would be a net zero without.
All right, Colleen, thank you.
Our last speaker registered to speak is David Haynes. David?
Thank you, City Council. Good evening. We need 21st century first world quality community centers and times open, just like at the library. We don't need austere budgets when it comes to cheating the people out of the services of the community's gathering places and exercise celebrations. Now, maybe I shouldn't bring this part of it up, but I was having lunch inside a park in Ballard next to the Fred Meyer off the Burke Gilman, something like End of Road Park on 11th Avenue Northwest on the canal. My personal smartphone, Kindle Fire, commemorative sweatshirt, my rain jacket, and a couple other items and money were stolen out of my bike basket. I went into a local business across the street and looked at the company's security cameras. As the video shows, a Parks Department employee with a handheld trash picker-upper kind of quietly sneaks up behind me and a woman having lunch and talking with bike about 10 feet behind us while horn honking from the drawbridge drowned out the quiet noise behind me. A Parks Department guy lifts my bag, then turns to head back to his trash pickup truck, dropping my stuff on the pavement, then shoving it into his personal pockets. The owner of the business across the street with the security cameras claimed the guy was an employee of the Parks Department hired to pick up trash at the park. The thing is, the employee of the Parks Department never went into the perimeter of the park to pick up the trash. How much money in the Seattle's parks budget goes towards propping up commercial real estate, leasing inflated corporate square footage, helping a big bank Democratic donor, while council is expecting an inflated payoff with dilapidated property tax at the end of the year, using the tax dollars twice? Well, we need services and times open now, and maybe a solving of the homeless crisis in the parks. We need better oversight of government abusive unions not doing their job properly. And sometimes employees need to be fired for dishonest work ethic. Separately, maybe we need to radically have at least one authorized park for the homeless, create an encampment where it's safe with the National Guard deployed and the Army Corps of Engineers and the cops protecting them from all the predators and rapists and criminals you've exempted from the jail.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Haynes. All right. Is there anyone else we got signed up, Jody?
No, there are no other people registered to speak.
Okay, great. Thank you, those of you who called in for public comment. Yes, it's public comment. Let's go to item 4. So we'll go to items of business. Clerk, can you please read item 1 into the record?
Agenda item 1, Seattle Park District proposed budget changes and proposed 2022 budget for briefing and discussion.
Thank you. Can our presenters please introduce themselves, and I will say a few words, and then we can launch right into your presentation.
Good evening. Excuse me, Jesus Aguirre, Seattle Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Selena Elmer, Seattle Parks and Recreation.
Unmute.
Sorry, AC Rassif, Council Central Staff.
Okay, is that everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so Superintendent, thank you. I know that you have a PowerPoint for us, and it looks like it's been updated from October, the October 18th meeting. I want to thank you for that because I see that it includes the overview of the Seattle Parks District Cycle and Report 2015 to 2020. I think that's on page 6 of the PowerPoint. But as I was sharing this morning, thank you so much. If you look at, I was very happy to see in the report on pages 15 to 17 that we broke down the Seattle Park District investment map by district. So into different, so we now people when they call in, particularly you heard some of the callers, where they can actually look and see what's being planned, what's done, all those issues that you broke down. So thank you so much for that. So with that, I'm going to let you go ahead and start your presentation.
Well, excuse me. Thank you, President Juarez and council members. We do have a presentation, excuse me, as you stated. I also realize that I stand between you and the last several actions that you have before you wrap up the budget. So I'll be very brief and we'll go very quickly. But I do want to take the opportunity to, as you said, council member, share with you a quick overview of the Park District budget for 2022, give you some highlights on the end of cycle report, which ended in 2020, and then also give you a little bit of information on what's next with regards to the second cycle of the Park District. So we'll go through that process. If this first slide just simply gives you an overview of the overall, Parks and Recreation budget, and it shows obviously that the Park District is a pretty significant component of our overall budget, representing almost 20% of our budget, $55 million per year approximately. Another thing you'll note here is one of the things we've done in the past, in 2021 particularly as an interim year, we asked to change the amount of money that was being funded by the general fund. And in this case, we actually are back up to what's required in the interlocal agreement, which is good news. So the general fund has been backfilled there. Next slide, please. This also just gives you a very quick overview of the fact that both on the operating side as well as on the capital side, the Park District represents a real critical component of all of our operations of capital, again, representing roughly 20% of each of those budgets, a little more on the capital side than on the operating side. Next slide, please. You've seen this slide before. This gives you the overview for 2022. And as a reminder, this is another interim year for the Park District. Cycle 1 ended in 2020. last year in 2021 and this year in 2022. Excuse me, this year in 2021 and next year in 2022, we'll proposing another interim year. The next park district cycle will begin in 2023, and I'll go into a little bit about how we're going to plan for that here in the next few slides. A couple things of note on this slide. We've discussed this before, but you'll see that the total revenues that we're proposing for this interim year are $54.5 million. That represents a 2.5% increase our prior years. Each year in the first cycle, we increased by 2.5% to address inflation. It's also important to, and we're doing that this year again. It's also important to note, as President Juarez and one of the speakers also noted, the property tax rate, in the current year goes from 21.3 cents per $1,000 of assessed value to 20.7. Of course, as the assessed value goes up, because we're pegging it to a certain financial amount, the actual rate goes down. And compare that to the first full year of implementation in 2016, which was 29.7 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. The 2022 spending plan continues to be below that. As we increase the revenues, we're also increasing the expenditures. You'll note that the expenditures also were up by 2.5%. The difference here is you'll see the CBO planning reserve, which we've talked in the past, is basically a hold pending labor negotiations for the budget. Next slide, please. This you've seen before, and you have this is more detailed than the previous slide, and you have even more detail in your attachment B to Resolution 44. But this gives you an initiative by initiative breakdown of the budget for 2022, proposed budget for 2022. Again, the inflationary rate is 2.5% overall, but you'll note some of these initiatives inflate at higher levels or lower levels, but the overall revenue is and expenditures are inflated at 2.5%. Next slide, please.
Jesus, can I have you hold up for 1 minute?
Yep.
Is there, kind of went through this, some people weren't here on October 18th, but we did go through these slides. Are there any questions from any of my colleagues up to this point, particularly on the last slide on the Park District spending plan? Okay, see none, go ahead, Superintendent.
Thank you. Okay, so next slide. So now pivoting to, as we move from the first cycle into the second cycle, as you mentioned at our June meeting, we presented to you a draft of the cycle end report. I'm happy to report that is now completed and published. There's a link shown here on the slide that's accessible to anyone who wants to take a look at it. This report gives you a broad overview of everything that we accomplished during the first cycle of the Park District, as well as the various appendices give you some very detailed financial and other information there. And as we reflect on the first cycle and think about what's going on in the second cycle, I think it's really important to highlight the fact that the Park District as a funding source really did what it was set up to do in terms of supporting Parks and Recreation services. As you all know, it allowed us to sustain operations for the Parks and Recreation Department during incredibly challenging times the last couple of years. It also allowed us to build internal capacity. The Park District first cycle funded several studies that allow us to improve the work that we're doing, really created some analytical systems and some performance systems that again continue to improve the system. So really allowed us, and as you mentioned, and if you look at the next slide that you pointed to, President Juarez, the next slide shows you all of the various projects that were completed as part of the Park District, funded by the Park District. This little sort of confetti map on the right shows you the distribution of the overall breadth of activities, investments that were made throughout the city through the first 6-year cycle. It shows activations, it shows capital both projects that were completed during the first 6-year cycle, as well as the ones that were initiated then, some studies, and then a whole bunch of operational enhancements that are things like comfort station improvement, the creation of a third shift to support our maintenance facilities, etc. So it really is a great testament to the foresight of the voters as we approve this, but also want to thank the staff of the Department of Parks and Recreation for being able to implement and really deliver on this commitment.
Jesus, if I can have you hold up 1 minute, I want to make a point, but I think Councilmember Strauss has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, President Juarez, and thank you, Superintendent Gary. I the confetti map is very helpful. And what is even more helpful is this list by district with what we got going on. I'm not going to read off all the projects you've done in District 6 because that would be poor use of my colleagues' time. But I just want to thank you for putting it in this format. It's really digestible. It's really great to see all the great work that you've done over these last few years. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, you're welcome. So let me just add something there, though. What I was going to ask of you, Superintendent, first of all, thank you for incorporating everything that we've been working on the last 3-4 years. So Nagin and I were trying to add up the projects, and we wanted to highlight. And I think what I'm going to do is condense some of the numbers here and share it with my colleagues. Because, I was looking particularly at District 2 and 3 and the projects that had been activated and the capital projects, which ones are underway and which ones were being studied. So I think we're going to do a one-pager for our colleagues, and that they can share with their constituents and of course citywide. So I want to really thank you for that. This has really been helpful for us to focus in, particularly for the race and social justice equity piece. So again, thank you so much. Is there anything else from any of my colleagues? Seeing none, go ahead, Superintendent.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So as we look into the next park district cycle, and a reminder, excuse me, each of the park district cycles is 6 years. We've had the 2021 current year is an interim year. 2022 we're proposing an interim year, so that we go into 2023, beginning the next 6-year cycle that will go into 2028. As we prepared for that, you might recall that way back in 2019, we underwent a strategic planning process to create some outcomes to really begin to have that conversation about what's next. And that strategic planning process was really to update and build on the legacy plan that was done way back in 2013 that created the park district. So, we're really building on all the work that was done before, updating it, and then really engaging with community. As we went through this engagement process, we had a pretty robust set of engagement activities, and literally over 10,000 people participated and gave us input into what they wanted from the Department of Parks and Recreation with regards to how we could meet their needs. Went through that process, published the strategic plan, and then of course had to pivot to pandemic response and mission essential functions at the beginning of 2020. That everything was put on pause in terms of implementation. Now, during this current this current calendar year, we realized that before we go into the planning for the next cycle that begins in 2023, we wanted to reconnect with communities and really focus on ensuring that the conversations we had with them way back in 2019, we want to make sure that we'd updated those conversations, heard directly from them to see how their needs had evolved in light of these multiple crises, the pandemic, the economic implosion, the ongoing racial reckoning, and of course the ongoing impacts of climate change. So went through that process, are really just near the end of that right now, and now we're going through and putting together a short-term action plan that will get us through this year, through next year and the next several years, and then we'll begin the process of the developing of the next cycle of the park district. Next slide, please. As part of the engagement we've done this year, and again, this is in addition to what we did way back in 2019, we've gone out and really targeted community members that may not have participated in the last round, but also particularly BIPOC communities, community members that we know were just fairly impacted by these crises. And so we did things like we had our community engagement ambassadors out and about in parks doing surveys. We had our community engagement ambassadors who were actually going out and talking different languages and asking lots of questions. I did a series of listening sessions, really targeting organizations and groups serving BIPOC community members. We had a pretty robust online open house that had over 3,500 responses, and many more people engaged with that. And then internally, we've really been relying on our internal staff members to really look at how their work in this line of business engagement, how their work can continue to meet the needs of our communities. Next slide, please. And to give you just a quick overview of the type of engagement that we had, and this is this year alone, in addition to what we did in the past, but we had over 9,000 people connect with us. I mentioned the listening sessions that represented over 27 community-based organizations that gave us input. We had the online open house that had over 3,600 people submit responses to the survey. And really, as we were doing all of these conversations, it really focused on these four pieces to the right: our work on public health and well-being, our work on supporting racial equity, supporting community members and communities as they recover from this economic collapse, and then again on the climate change impact. So really focus those conversations on those four areas. Next slide, please. And as you can imagine, we heard a lot of, got a lot of great engagement, a lot of information, and this just gives you a sampling of what we heard through all the various touch points. Everything from as you can imagine, how do we address the impacts of homelessness in parks, reducing barriers for participation within what we do, both from the participation in programs, but also volunteers. Small businesses had a lot of feedback in terms of how we provide permits, et cetera, and how we can make it easier, particularly for BIPOC organizations to participate, and on and on. You can see all of these, and we have many, many more of these, but this gives you a pretty good overview. And of course, by and large, a lot of what we heard was people want more pickleball, more hours in community centers, more hours at swimming pools, et cetera. So we're taking all of this information, and this is what we're gonna, bring to the conversations as we begin the discussions around the next cycle of the Park District. So next slide, please.
Superintendent, before you slide into slide 12, just quickly, because we got a couple constituents that had called in or sent information, what is the status on the pools and the programming to opening this winter?
Yeah, several of the pools have already been open and have been programming, much like our community centers. We have all of that information on our website. I can get that to you. But yes, they're back up and running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We're on 12.
Yeah, and then the next slide, just to give you a little bit of a preview in terms of what's next. As we get ready again, our goal is in January of 2023 to begin the next 6-year cycle of the Park District. So we've gone through this process of the engagement for the strategic plan, re-engage with community members to really prioritize how these crises have impacted their needs. And then we'll begin starting in 2022, early next year, both on our own, on the internal side of things, really looking at all the work that picking up kind of where we left off back in 2019, when we were ready to finalize the next planning cycle. We'll pick up on the internal work that we did, work with our Board of Parks and Recreation Commissioners to really get input from the public, continue the prioritization in terms of what we're hearing and what we've heard throughout the engagement, but also what they will hear. And then this should culminate in June, where we'll present our recommendations from the department to the mayor, who will then present as part of his budget to the Park District Board for your review. And then again, hopefully you'll approve that at this time next year, and then we'll begin 2023 with a new cycle.
Are you gonna be doing? How are you gonna do it with the with COVID? Are you requiring people to show that they're vaccinated at communities? Or are you going to continue to do it through Zoom?
In terms of the engagement? Yeah, we're still working through that with the Board of Parks and Recreation Commissioners to see their level of comfort there. The Zoom has some advantages, but also some disadvantages. And as much as we're able to do, they're very interested actually in going out to communities to have engagement out in communities. So we're going to work with them to support that. As you know, currently anyone who enters a Parks and Recreation facility has to show proof of vaccination. And so we would continue to apply whatever the King County and city state mandates are with regards to that. We've been able to do some in-person engagement. For example, I did one engagement with Little Brook Park community up here a few weeks ago, and we did it outdoors. We went out and did another one indoors, but we were all spaced and masked. So we'll work through that and see what is going to be the best way to get as much engagement as possible. But again, we'll work with the Parks and Rec commissioners to understand what their level of comfort is.
Great, thank you. So this is the end of your PowerPoint. So let me check with my colleagues. Again, this is our second time going through this, and my colleagues all received the memo and the copy of the report and the ordinances and the fiscal notes and summary. So I think we're pretty well. You've given us a lot of great information. So with that, are there any more questions before we move into some of the items to vote on? Okay. I see none. Nothing from the Vice President. Oh, the Vice President does have his hand up. Go ahead, Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I just wanted to address some folks from District 4 had called in, and I just wanted to let them know that the ability to amend this budget is very limited. That action actually takes place as part of our regular budget committee and the full city council that already met to approve the budget. This is just 20% of the overall funding for parks, and it's really a very high level approval. So I did make attempts to restore funding for the Laurelhurst Community Center twice, actually. And so we'll be, even though that narrowly did not pass, I'll be working with the Harrell administration to see what we can do to restore that in some fashion next year. So I just wanted to address the folks who had called in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. Is there anybody else? Okay. Let's move to item number 2. Clerk, can you read item number 2 into the record?
Agenda item 2, resolution 44, a resolution adopting the 2022 Seattle Park District budget.
Thank you. I move the board adopt resolution 44. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Let's begin our discussion. Is there any discussion regarding resolution 44? Tracy, is there anything you want to add and tee up for us?
Nope. We've been through it now 2 times.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
3 times actually. Okay, good. Okay, so seeing no discussion and no one has their hands up, I will move forward. The motion to adopt resolution 44 has been moved and seconded. And if there's no further discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Gonzalez. Herbold.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Mosqueda.
Aye.
Peterson.
Yes.
Strauss.
Yes.
President Juarez.
Yes.
7 in favor, none opposed.
Sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez.
8 in favor, none opposed.
8 in favor. Thank you. All right. So the motion passes. The resolution will be adopted. Will the clerk please affix my signature to the resolution on my behalf? All right. Let's move to agenda item number 3. And can you please read that into the record?
Agenda item 3, resolution 45, a resolution authorizing the levy of regular property taxes by the Seattle Park District for collection in 2022, representing an increase above the regular property taxes levied for collection in 2021.
Thank you. I move the board adopt resolution 45. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Any more questions from what we've heard from the superintendent? Okay, seeing none. The motion to adopt resolution 45 has been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Herbold.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Mosqueda.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Strauss.
Yes.
President Juarez.
Yes.
8 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item number 4. And can you please read item 4 into the record?
Agenda item 4, resolution 46, a resolution relating to the levy of property taxes, fixing the rates and or amounts of taxes to be levied and levying the same upon all taxable property, both real and personal, in the Seattle Park District to finance the activities of the district for the year beginning January 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Jody. I move the board adopt resolution 46. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Council President again. Apparently my Vice President isn't paying attention, so thank you, Council President. Are there any comments or
5:40 p.m.
Is there any comments or discussions on this matter? Seeing none. Okay, the motion to adopt Resolution 46 has been moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Herbold,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Mosqueda,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Strauss,
Yes.
President Juarez.
Yes.
8 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you. The motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Will the clerk please affix my signature to the resolution on my behalf? Okay, here's our last one. Will the clerk please read item number 5 into the record?
Agenda item 5, Resolution 47, a resolution setting a Seattle Park District Board meeting date for June 2022 and stating the intent to establish the remainder of the meeting dates in June 2022.
Thank you. I move the board adopt Resolution 47.
Second.
Thank you. Wow. Okay.
Councilmember Juarez, if I might explain
Yeah.
and address the question that came up about why we're only establishing one date, I'll make this very quick. As Superintendent Gary indicated, we are expecting that the executive will transmit to the council, hopefully in August, the new proposed spending plan. We don't know exactly what those dates will be right now, and so it seemed prudent to get to our June meeting of the Park District and see if we know more about dates certain that we would expect to receive, and then want to set board meetings to approximate when we think we might actually receive that document again, likely in August is what we're hoping for. So that's why we chose not to establish any more dates for the board. Additionally, you are all considering the possibility of changing your full council or council briefings dates of meeting, and that would impact when we would set our October and November meeting dates. So it didn't seem prudent to schedule those dates, given that you are still kind of trying to decide what your meeting day might be as it relates to your council briefings and full council meetings.
Thank you, Tracy. I actually was going to try to address that, but then I thought it'd be a little bit more complicated. So thank you. And then I had a note here. So thank you for catching that, because I didn't even see my own notes. So thank you. Okay. I forgot where I was at. Was I getting ready to move, or did I already do that? I already had a second. No?
Yep.
Okay.
Ready to vote.
We are? Okay.
Yes.
The motion to adopt Resolution 46 has been moved and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Herbold,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Mosqueda,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Strauss,
Yes.
President Juarez.
Yes. Thank you.
8 in favor, none opposed.
The motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Will the clerk please affix my signature to the resolution on my behalf? Okay, so this concludes our business, but before we adjourn, let me share that our next meeting, as Tracy pointed out, will be held on June 24th, 2022. And it's not seeing any more information, no one raising their hand. There being no further business, we stand adjourned. And thank you all so much for sticking around. I know it's been a long day and I appreciate all of you. Thank you.